Okay. Okay. Today I'm going to talk about how to present medical scientific papers in English. So now we have just 3 people. So I'd like to ask a question to Dr. Ceredon and to Dr. Montano. Have you ever presented your scientific papers at a national or international meeting in English? Dr. Ceredon, how many times you have presented? I cannot hear you. Probably you are on mute, right?
Well, I think I'm not on mute. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Well, I had to present once an abstract of one of my papers, but that's just an abstract, a poster. And there was one time when I was a fellow in Japan that I had to, I was going with a professor of mine to the American Transplant Society meeting. And like maybe I was helping my professor for the presentation with his English. And maybe like 3 or 4 days before we had to leave, one of the patients they had operated was complicated. So he had to cancel but he had to present his paper. So he asked me if I could present it instead of him, because he said that he didn't want to cancel on the meeting. And so I said, and because I had helped him, I was able to present it without the problem.
So that was in Japan, right?
No, I had to go to Boston, I think, for that.
Oh, I see. So what was the topic? Do you remember your presentation?
Yes, it was a case of liver transplant of orthotopic liver transplant in the for the domino transplant. Have you heard of the domino transplant? It's where one patient with amyloidosis and another patient with, like, we take the liver out of a patient with amyloidosis and we give it to a patient who has cirrhosis. And because they use a live donor liver transplant, they would take a piece of liver from the donor and they would put it in the so it's like two recipients and one donor. It had to do with that, I think.
So was it difficult for you to present in English, or were you nervous because that was the first presentation?
A little, yes, a little nervous because I was relatively young. I was maybe 27 years old, 25 years old, and I wasn't the expert. I was just the person who knew the presentation. So for questions, they did, I think, ask some questions, but I didn't have. I think they knew I couldn't answer many questions, just in case.
Okay, Dr. Montano, you told me that you have never presented a scientific paper in English. Am I right? Vanessa Montano, you are on the line? Please reactivate your microphone.
Hi, Professor.
Okay. So, have you ever presented a scientific paper at a national or Mexican or international meeting in English?
In English, yes. I present 2 at European Congress of Radiology. One in 2019, and the last year I also present a work
at European Congress of Radiology, right?
Yes, I present both there.
That is in Austria, right? Vienna, yes. Right?
Vienna.
Yeah, it is held every year in Vienna. It's a wonderful
Wonderful place.
So what was your feeling? You are excited or you are nervous?
I was really, really nervous, but I have to take it easy because it was the first time that I do it.
Okay.
But it was great. After, I feel like really, really great. Like I could, was another experience that I will do it again.
So the second presentation was easier than the first one?
Yes, of course.
Of course. What about Melissa Solano, Dr. Solano? Have you ever presented a paper in English? No? Melissa Solano.
She says she doesn't have a microphone. She says she doesn't have a microphone.
Okay.
But she says that English.
I cannot hear Manuel, also Melissa.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yes, I'm sorry. Well, she says that she has not presented in English.
Okay.
But she would like to.
Okay, thank you. And then, as you know, English is very important for scholars because English is the powerful international language in academia. Now, English is Ecuadorian and Korean. So, needless to say, the better your English, the greater the opportunities for academic growth you will have. I'd like to divide my talk into 7 topics. You keep my template because I sent my template for these 7 tips 5 days ago, right? Dr. Montano, you keep this template, right? You received that? I cannot. I cannot hear.
Did you hear me? I think yes. I think most people received it. Yes.
Okay, that's good. And then the hints for preparation. I'm sorry. So I'd like to start with the first part. Here are 4 hints for presentation. As you know, a slide is very important tool between the speakers and audience. To make a good presentation, please remember that keep data and tables on slide simple, meaning limit your slide to more than 7 lines and 7 words or less per line. Do not use red, green, or purple for background or letters, and do not include too much information. Instead, limit your presentation to key points and leave the fine details for publication. By the way, how many of you think this slide would say is well designed? Dr. Saladin, do you think this is well designed?
Well, it does. I think it does keep to your recommendations. It says less than 7 lines. Well, 7, 8, I think. I think it's okay. Maybe, yeah. I think it's okay. No problem.
Any other opinions? Any other opinions? Okay. What about this? This is the same content, but design is different. This is better, right?
Yeah, that looks better. Yeah, that looks better. Yeah, less lines. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I will go back to the previous slide. This is the previous slide. You can see there are 2 lines for number 2 and number 3 hints each. And also the second line has a total of 10 words. But again, let's move forward. The second line is less than 7 words. So please keep in mind, keep it short and simple. So it's an acronym, it's a KISS. What about this slide? Just look at the color for background and the letters. You can see purple color for background and red and green for letters. It gives you a headache, isn't it? Right? So I'd like to introduce a funny story. I gave a talk on the hints for oral presentation at Osaka City University in Japan, 2004. And I used this slide for bad example. And all of a sudden, all the people laughed altogether. I didn't understand why they were laughing. So after my lecture was over, I asked one of the audience, why did you laugh during my presentation? He said, this style of slide is my boss, chairman's favorite. So he has consistently used that type of slide longer than 10 years. As you know, in Japan, the chairman's power is very strong. What he or she said goes. That's why they left. But anyway, that was a funny story. After that, he didn't use this kind of slide anymore because I met him personally. What about this slide?
It's difficult to read.
Yeah, okay. That's very true. That's very true what it says there. If you have a very nice picture, people don't read the text. They look at the picture. That's true.
So does anyone here remember any of the hints presented on the previous slide? No? No one?
It's the don't use green and purple and red. Yeah.
Yes, red,
okay.
green, purple.
Okay. And do you remember the background?
It was between purple and gray.
Yeah, okay. Okay. I'll go back. You can see the background.
It didn't include green this time. The second one.
You didn't see this one? You saw, right? So anyway, here you can see it.
Did you move back?
Yes, I moved back. You didn't see this one? Manuel,
no.
Okay. Yeah, this is the one I show you. So here you can see wonderful ships and castles and also mountains. So I will move forward. Can you see this one? Manuel, can you see this slide?
Now I can, yes. The picture is smaller.
Okay, yeah. So if you use a wonderful or interesting picture for your background, the audience will be interested in the background and not in your content. Manuel, do you think this is good or better, or do you have any idea how would you redesign this slide?
Oh, this is hard because, well, the thing is, I'm like personally, I'm not very good at putting pictures into the like nice pictures or funny pictures in the presentation. I am not very good at that because I think it distracts a little bit. I can make a pause, like I can just suddenly like make a pause in the presentation, putting a different photo and then continuing. But like I'm not very good at knowing where to put in a picture that might be interesting or funny or something like that. I don't like it that much. If I were to change this a little bit, maybe putting them side by side, maybe that would be my style.
Okay.
Maybe that would be what I would, that would be my mind.
Any other comments or opinion? Okay.
Yes, I think it depends on the purpose of the picture, because if the picture, it's really the most important, let's say, content of the presentation, it should go, I don't know, maybe in the middle or up and to the right. I think that's gonna catch your attention at the first time, and maybe the letters below the picture, and just like 3 lines or 2 lines. I mean, if you're going to work with the picture to explain it, maybe you really want to catch the attention.
Okay, excellent comment. Also, Dr. Solano, you presented your experience twice, right? What's your opinion? Melissa Solano. No, no opinion. I cannot hear you.
She doesn't have a microphone, Dr. Song.
Oh, okay.
She can write.
Okay, so can you read it? No? Okay.
She writes.
Manuel, I cannot hear you. There is a delay. Slow. Okay. So I prefer this one. This is my style. Because this is my style, because it is short and simple. Again, the audience will be interested in your content because there is no beautiful photos and unnecessary things, so they can concentrate on your content. That's why I like this kind of a simple and short slide. And then I'd like to show you several slides designed by a fellow at UTASCA in San Antonio. As I mentioned before, I set up an interventional research meeting in San Antonio. That meeting included the authorship conference and also the rehearsal before their presentation of scientific papers at the national or international meeting. Dr. Sofia Gamboa, you are on the line? No?
No, no, today, Dr. Song, she couldn't join the meeting. She sent me a message before.
You are right. Anyone from Argentina, Buenos Aires? No? Oh, no one?
Pablo, no, not today. Not today, Dr. Song.
Okay, okay. Anyway, what do you think about this slide? This is a background slide. So I will explain. They classified splenic injuries in 5 grades according to the American Association for the Surgery of Trauma Splenic Injury scale. What do you think about this slide? This is okay? And
I would think that, like, for example, my opinion would be that I would make the image larger so you could see the captions.
Okay, how can you make it?
And you have a lot of text.
Yes.
I would make the image larger, like maybe make it bigger, maybe almost half of the slide. And the splenic injuries, like all this text is not really necessary. I think it says too much information. Melissa is her opinion about this one. She says that the background is confusing with the image, and that it doesn't seem that you can't see it very well. So she says that.
Okay, good idea. Any other comment or opinion about the background paragraph slide?
You can see the image. You can see what they like. Okay. You can have a fast idea of what the meaning said for each grade. For example, for grade 1, I can see the percentage, like the difference. I don't know how to explain, but everything is too small.
Yeah, you are right. So
for my opinion.
I agree with you. Also, Dr. Manuel Ceredon mentioned this one. Dr. Ceredon, how would you like to make it bigger?
I would expand the size.
Okay.
Probably.
Okay.
And I would reduce the text about splenic injuries are graded according to I think that's, I wouldn't put the American Association for Surgery. I just put the AST.
Okay.
And I would just use it as a sentence probably at the bottom, and then probably just leave a lot of, almost all of it. Even I would take out background. I wouldn't even include that. I would just basically make it about most of it would be about the.
But do you have this kind of rehearsal in your hospital before their presentation at the national or international meeting?
I think they do. Maybe Andrea knows
do you
this
have
a little bit more.
Andrea Alfaro, do you have this kind of rehearsal?
No, if I have done it, presentation. I mean, the question is, if I had made a presentation.
Do you have any rehearsal? This kind of meeting for teaching or for giving comment for resident or fellows?
No, in fact, no. Once I read a text to have an idea of how to do it, but I did it, let's say, myself.
Okay, so this is very important. Before I visited University of San Antonio, they didn't have this kind of rehearsal. So after I set up the meeting, they loved this kind of feedback. That's why they have this kind of meeting. But anyway, I asked them, I agree with you, the content of a slide should be able to comprehend it in 20 seconds, but it's impossible because the slides and letters are too small. So I gave the speaker, the fellow, 2 options. One is this one, like I asked him to just write the title of the presentation because this is the background. So the title was distal glue embolization in the setting of splenic trauma. So as Dr. Ceredon mentioned, I made the picture bigger. I can explain this one easily. So we classified the splenic injury scale into 5 grades according to the American Association for the Surgery of Trauma. For example, grade 1 is less than 10%, grade 2 between 10 to 50%, and grade 3 more than 50% surface area. Grade 4 pseudoaneurysm or AV fissura, and grade 5 vascular injury and active bleeding. This is better, right? Any other comments or questions? This is okay? This is my first option. What could be my second option?
What about word background? Can you take out the word background? The word background, could you take it out?
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. We can take the black background out, but I didn't it because I couldn't manage the whole thing. That's why I just made the liked one, but that is good idea. Okay, that is my second option. I split the 5 pictures into 2, like this is a bigger, same, and then this is the one. So this is his example case. I will explain. The contrast enhanced abdominal CT shows splenic laceration extending to the hilum and also hemoperitoneum surrounding the spleen and the liver. And angiography shows 2 pseudo-aneurysms at the lower 4 of the spleen, and they performed glue embolization. After embolization, the venous phase shows defect because of the glue embolization with no further filling of the pseudo-aneurysm, and post-embolization abdominal CT shows low density in the spleen due to embolization, and this is glue, and there was no pseudo-aneurysm. How would you revise or redesign this case, example case? Dr. Sheridan?
Okay, well, there's a lot of text in all of them. So, well, for example, this one, this one, yeah, the blue text, you can't even read it. It's terrible. Blue arrows, you can't even see it. That is definitely wrong.
I agree with you.
That's terrible. Yeah, there's a lot of.
Any other opinion?
So maybe don't have to have all this information. Yeah.
I cannot hear you because of the delay or slow, but anyway.
I'm sorry. It's when you change the slides, there's a small lag. But I would make the pictures larger. I would probably reduce as much as I could the explanation, because you can mention that, you can say that.
Sure, definitely. And Dr. Alfaro.
And
okay,
the arrows are fine.
Okay, Dr. Alfaro, what's your opinion?
I think I'll keep the arrows too, but maybe I'll put like just a word, maybe like splenic laceration and red arrow. That's enough. And hemoperitoneum, orange arrow, enough, because they're supposed that you really know this image by heart, so you don't have to hold the text. You're able to explain it.
Okay, so good.
I'll do that. Just 2 words. That's enough.
Okay. Any other comments or opinion? No? Okay. I'll give you my comment. I redesigned like this. This is very simple. Just one slide. I can briefly explain. Pre-embolization abdominal CT shows splenic laceration extending to the hilum and hemoperitoneum surrounding the spleen and the liver. And angiography shows 2 aneurysms, the aneurysms which was treated by glue embolizations. Post-embolization abdominal CT shows glue materials with no further filling of the pseudoaneurysm. So because this is an example case, you can compare pre and post angio and CT together. That's why I'd like to have one slide to show the example case. But anyway, there are different kinds of opinions. This is not one solution. This is usually I designed the slide. So when we present the paper, as I mentioned before, the slide is very important communication between speakers and audience. So you have to think about the audience, not yourself, because we present the paper for audience, not for myself. That's why you have to think about from the audience point of view. That is my idea. And then this is a slide for conclusion. It will be easy for you to give a comment, any other comment for this conclusion slide.
I was going to mention that for the previous one, Melissa Solano commented that the text was too. I think that's probably what she would say on this one too. It's I would think the same. It's there's a lot of space, of empty space. It doesn't make sense to have such a small phrase and have so much space. So you could make it a lot larger, I think. So you maybe increase the size of the text, maybe less information. Let me read it. While infrequently utilized glue embolization. Well, yeah, glue embolization. Yeah, he can take out while infrequently used. Just take out glue embolization can be an effective tool. That's a good conclusion. And maybe use bullet points. Maybe glue embolization can be an effective tool, and current outcomes appear similar to those reported in the literature. Something like that.
Okay.
Just those.
Okay, Dr. Vanessa Montano, what's your opinion?
About this slide of conclusion?
Yes, conclusion slide. Do you like it?
No, I don't like it because the letters are too small, and you should separate one sentence, another sentence. I think will be better.
Okay, good.
For my opinion.
Yeah, you are right. The letters are too small to read, and each line has more than 7 words. That was my answer. So I redesigned like this one. This is much better, right? And then also I put just the title because this is a conclusion. Anyway, there are different kind of technique and method to improve the design of a slide and the presentation skill. So please try to make a meeting for rehearsal before their presentations, because residents, they don't know how to handle the slides. That's why I really recommended that if you have time, please try to make a meeting for rehearsal. Anyway, I'd like to move on to the second topic, do's and don'ts. Here are 3 do's before the meeting. Try to make balance your presentation in a logical sequence. For example, you can divide your presentation into purpose, materials and method, result and conclusion, as you would in writing scientific papers. And also, I want you to write your presentation to practice it with a critic in front of your colleagues, as I mentioned just before. And needless to say, the more you practice and edit your presentation, the better you will be at it. Here are 4 do's at the meeting. It's important to visit your presentation room in advance to get a feel for how the controls and the computer work. And I want you to meet the chairman to introduce yourself, because it's important to be comfortable with the chairman's English, like Korean English or British English, Spanish English, because the chairman will repeat the question when you don't understand the question. And also try to face audience and maintain eye contact. This is not easy for beginners, but this is very important. Many people just look at the slides, or they just don't look at the audience. Sometimes they look at the ceilings and the windows, but that is not a good idea, because you have to try to read the audience mind. Sometimes you can miss that the audience lose the interest in your presentation. So if you think they are not interested in, probably you can speak up, or you can just speak fast. And also you must keep the allotted time for your presentation. This is must. If it is 7 minutes, you have to keep the 7 minutes. As I mentioned, visiting your presentation room in advance is very important. I always visit my presentation room. For example, this is RSNA conference. It's 2,000 people attended the meeting. I'm sorry, 60,000 people attended the meeting, but there is a big conference room, including 5,000. So you can understand the size of the meeting room. This is a small one. This was in the United States at Duke University. And then you can understand the controls of the computers, and also mouse and laser point, and where the microphones are, and also how loud they are. So this is very important. If you don't know the size of the room, probably you will be nervous, because that was your first time to see this kind of a big auditorium. Here are 3 don'ts at the meeting. Do not abuse the laser point. Particularly the beginners, they don't turn off the laser point. So they abuse the laser point and the mouse like this, and the circle, and then follow this one every time. So try to use it to indicate your target briefly. So if your slide is like this, you don't need to use mouse. Probably you can just here. And then do not rush, speak slowly and clearly. This is very important for non-native speakers, because if the non-native speakers rush and speak fast, they don't understand. Why? Because the intonation and the accents are different. And do not be afraid of the question. Easier said than done. This is not easy for beginners, but that's true. It is true that they do not know about your study as much you do. So if you're worried about the questions, I'd like to ask you to meet the chairman and ask possible questions to the chairman, because the chairman usually prepare 2 or 3 questions for each speaker. So it's okay to ask. And then try not to be afraid of questions, but rather anticipate them, because you are there to teach your experience and to present your experience. So just do it. Try not to be afraid of the questions. And then also some questions are very, very important for your next idea. So you can anticipate or waiting for the questions. This is an analysis of 221 questions given to me at international meeting, particularly RSNA. I have attended the RSNA 13 times in a row. And then here you can see 55% of the questions are related with the materials and method. 32% are related with the result. In other words, you know the answer, 87%, because that is your result. So it is very important to write your manuscript before you present your papers, because when you finish writing papers, you understand everything, including the background and also previous references. That's why I really want you to finish writing your papers before you present your papers. After returning home after presentation, there should be good questions, and then you can revise your manuscript one more time according to the audience feedback, and then you can submit it. That is my way. So there is no need to be overly concerned with the questions. Even if you don't know the answer, it is okay. Just to do your best. So if the questions become a really concern, preparing answers for potential questions is a good strategy. I will explain. This was my slide for my presentation at 2017 Korean Radiological Society. That was 7-minute presentations followed by 3-minute questions. We present papers in English 100%. That's why we had to present in English. Here you can see I prepared 10 slides for 7-minute presentation. And also here you can see my answers for 8 possible questions, particularly the discussion section. So this is my possible answers. And also there were 3 questions during 3 minutes for discussion. And then the first one, you remember that I talked about the eustachian tube balloon dilation. That was my idea. So that I had 3 questions from the audience. The clinical meaning of the enlarged bony canal. That was discussion part. And the other one, look at the possibility of infection due to balloon dilation. That was a result. And also, is it okay to advance the guide wire in the middle ear space? That was a materials and method. So I like this kind of question. And I usually write down the questions from the audience because it is good and helpful for my next presentations. And also I can get ideas from the questions. That's why every time I attend the international meeting, I make a note after presentation. And I'd like to move on to the next topic, how to present a scientific paper in English. I confirm that all of you keep my template. And then it has been my habit to take a note whenever I came across useful English expressions at the international conferences, because my native tongue is not English. That's why after returning home, I asked my English teacher or my American friend whether my note were correct or not. After that, I saved the note into my computer. So all of the examples are from the meeting. So this is very practical and approved by American friends. So you can use these expressions if you need. And then, for example, recently it is very important to disclose your financial interest regarding your paper or off-label use of a device. So here are 3 examples. For example, I will discuss off-label use of a device. I have nothing to disclose financially. I am an owner of the patent. Any other examples? If you read my template, probably there should be 3 more. Any other examples or opinions regarding the disclosure sentence examples? No?
I don't understand that part. I have nothing to disclose financially. Is there something that's wrong?
That means no. I mean, here are 3 examples, right? But I sent you 6 examples for disclosure sentence examples. So any other examples for disclosures? No?
Let me see.
Here you can see. That's why you can use my template. I have a grant or royalty from a company. So it is obligatory to reveal that the relationship between your presentation and the company. It's okay, but the audience should know. And then I am a consultant for a company, and I am a committee member on the board of a company. And also, here's another example. Could you turn off the light, please? Usually, when you start the presentation, you can use this one, particularly the first presenter, because it is too bright for your presentation. But this is wrong. How would you correct this expression? Could you turn off the light, please? Or turn the light off, please? Why this is wrong?
Because you're asking for something, you're not giving a command.
Okay, this is order. Okay, and anything else? English itself is okay.
Maybe say, could we? Yeah, I think the English is okay. I think, but like you could could we get the lights, please? Maybe faster. Could we get the lights? Something like that, please. Maybe more colloquial, okay. More informal.
Okay, but this is the answer. Here you can say, could you dim the lights, please? Lights down, please. Or dim the lights, please. Turn the lights down, please. Why? Because they don't turn off the lights. Usually dim the lights or down the lights, right? If they turn off the light, it's too dark. And also there is not only one light. There are many lights in the auditorium. That's why this is correct. But they can understand if you say, could you turn off the light, please? They can do that. But as your experience is getting better and better and more, it's better for you to be accustomed to the standard English. That's why please use this kind of expressions. Another one, my topic today is about the stand placement. This is okay, or how would you rephrase this sentence?
Maybe today I'm going to talk about stand placement.
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah. Today I will talk about the stand placement, or today my topic is a stand placement. This is simple. What about this? I have 2 questions to Dr. Zeredon. What's wrong? This is wrong. Why is that? Dr. Sheridan, how would you correct this one?
Wow, this is a hard one. I'm not sure. This doesn't seem that.
Okay, because many people. Okay.
Maybe just.
I cannot hear you. I'm sorry.
Maybe just questions, but maybe just going ahead and asking the questions instead of announcing that you have two questions. I don't know.
But you
Maybe.
can look. Okay. Yeah, please.
I'm sorry. No, I don't know if it's better to first catch the attention of the person you're going to ask to, and maybe saying the name and the second name. I mean, it could be like two items or
okay.
three items.
Please rephrase this question in your word. How would you? For example, Dr. Adam, are you going to start like that?
Yes, like Dr. Adam. I don't know. Can I ask you a question or?
Okay. So here is the answer. Actually, this is wrong, but many people, many non-native speakers use this one. I have two questions to Dr. Adam. This is wrong. You have to use, I have two questions for Dr. Adam. Why? Because if you look up the dictionary, the verb, the word have, don't have, has the direction. So you cannot use to. But as Dr. Sheridan mentioned, if you want to use the verb ask, the word ask has a direction. So if you want to say, I'd like to ask two questions to Dr. Adam, this is okay. But if you want to use have, this is wrong. I have two questions for. It should be for. This is correct. So I confirm this one many times. So there are always excellent phrases and patterns you can pick up from any international conference you attend. So be ready to write the phrases down to expand your English vocabulary. This is very important for scholars because all of you are younger than I am, so you have enough time, so you can make this kind of examples. But be careful and double check what you write down because sometimes the presenter is wrong. So I usually write down the presentations, questions, or answers from the native speakers. What about this one? Excuse me, would you please go to the microphone? How do you like it? Dr. Sheridan, do you like this one?
Yes, I'm sorry. Actually, the previous sentence, I read it, but my brain read it in the correct way. I didn't pay attention. I guess my eyes didn't see it. So excuse me, would you please go to the microphone? Oof. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Would you please go to the mic? Like, could you please speak directly into the microphone, or could you please?
Okay, my question like this. When you present, there's a noise. I cannot hear.
Yes, when you present, yes, please explain.
Yeah, when you present your scientific paper in a big auditorium, someone or a person asked you a question from the audience, so you could not hear what he said because the auditorium was too big. How would you solve the problem? What kind of expression are you going to use, Dr. Sheridan?
Okay. Maybe I would say, could you please repeat it into the microphone? Could you please wait? Pass him a microphone with a microphone to the person. You know, I think that would be probably what would be.
Okay. When I attended the RSNA for the first time in 1988, an old gentleman asked a question to the speaker who was young with a ponytail. I vividly remember. And then that was a big auditorium. So the speaker with a ponytail used this one. Excuse me, would you please go to the microphone? And then the old gentleman stood up and went to the microphone and repeat his question. I loved how it sounded. Since then, I have used these phrases for 20 years because it was wonderful expression. Because here you can see, I was able to think about the answer or have another chance to hear the question clearly. And also, another benefit was that it took up at least 1 minute to go to the microphone, and thus I had fewer questions to answer. For example, 3 minutes. Usually they ask 2 questions because when I used this term, it took at least 1 minute or 2 minutes for them to go to the microphone. That's why I have used these expressions because I was afraid of the questions. But few years ago, one of my friends from the United States said, don't use this one. You are old and well-known, so you can use this one. I am sorry, would you please use the microphone? So in the States, in San Antonio and many universities, I asked this question. Half of them say, yes, it's okay. But when I said this one, oh, you are right, we should be modest or we have to respect it. That's why I'm sorry. Would you please use the microphone? Is more polite than this one, but I still don't know the nuance, but I use this one. I'm sorry. Would you please use the microphone? But this is an example. So sometimes you cannot understand the question from the audience. When you do not understand the question, how do you solve the problem? Dr. Alfaro? Andrea Alfaro?
Yes, maybe asking, well, maybe you can also start with, I am sorry, would you repeat your question? Or I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your question. Can you repeat it for me?
Okay, good, excellent. So here are 3 examples. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please try to use I'm sorry. This is good. I did not understand your question as you mentioned. Would you please rephrase your question? Or I'm sorry, could you please repeat the question more slowly? Or this is good. Mr. Chairman, if you understood the question, would you please repeat it for me? This is good when you don't understand the questions. And then you can, the speaker, no, the person repeat the question. So it's not good idea to ask to repeat it 2 times or 3 times, right? In the case you can this one. What about this? When you cannot understand the question at all, so you ask the person who asked the question, would you please repeat the question, or would you please rephrase your question? And he or she rephrased the question for you, and then you couldn't understand, and you asked the chairman, Mr. Chairman, would you please repeat the question because I didn't understand. Even after the repeat by the chairman, you couldn't understand. How would you solve the problem? Dr. Solano or Dr. Montaño from Mexico? No? Or Dr. Celedon?
I remember one time I was in a meeting and there was a person from Argentina who was presenting, and a person from Pakistan asked the question, and they both had very, very thick accents. So the person from Bangladesh or from Pakistan was asking, and the presenter said, "I'm sorry, I don't understand what you said." And the person repeated the question a second time, and then he didn't understand. He said, "No, I don't understand." And then he repeated it a third time, and "No, I'm sorry, I just don't understand what you're saying." And that was the end of it. They didn't ask somebody else, another chairman or some third person to translate between them. I did understand what one of them was asking, and I could have translated, but they never said, "Oh, can somebody try to explain," or something like that. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that could help.
Okay, so this is my tips. Probably you can use one of these three. I'm sorry, it's hard for me to answer your question. And you don't need to use this one because of my poor English, or I'm very sorry, I'm afraid that my English is not good enough to explain, but I like this one. I'm very sorry, I don't understand your question. I will get back to your question after this session. And one guy used this one. So this is a very polite and then positive attitude. Anyway, there are different kind of methods, but if you want, you can use one of my three tips. And when you do not know the answer, you can understand the question, but you do not know the answer. Here is a two example. Thank you for your excellent question. However, I'm afraid that the answer is beyond my expertise. Unfortunately, that is a question that I do not know the answer to. If you give me your contact information, I would be happy to find the answer for you. This is very polite and good one. So always be internally critical of what you hear, but be externally respectful with your questions. And then I'd like to move on to the fifth topic. Pay attention to any unfamiliar sound. Actually, in the beginning, I had difficulties because I couldn't pronounce some consonants or vowels, for particularly Z sound and R sound. So I asked my English teacher and American and British friend to teach me how to pronounce the R sound and also L sound and the Z sound, but the answer was they tried to teach me, but the answer was that I cannot teach you because I naturally learned how to pronounce this one from childhood. So I asked them, please open your mouth so that I can see your tongue. Where is your tongue? But anyway, in July 2000, 11 years after my first lecture in Japan, I met Mr. David Lee as our new English teacher and made this guideline for pronunciation of unfamiliar consonant and vowel. That was wonderful. For example, here is an example. Andrea, Dr. Andrea Alfaro, please pronounce this one.
Rise, robot.
Is it okay?
Well, I did the exercise myself, all the words you gave us. I repeat all of them at home. It was kind of funny.
Okay. Dr. Alfaro, I know that Spanish has this kind of R sound like Rueda and Pedro, right? So your R sound is different from English R sound, right?
Yes. Like
what's the difference? Would you please pronounce this one in Spanish way?
It would be like Rice robot. We sound like
You're right. You're right. So that is a typical Spanish word. So this is very important. I will explain what I did to change. Eventually, I changed this one by using this method. During your drone is like a or like a chant or like a dog sound, and curl your tongue tip up and back so that it points toward the hard palate without touching it, and around the lips very slightly. So kissing position. So definitely the R sound is different. So I still have difficulty to pronounce perro, but I can make it because I asked many Spanish speakers to teach me how to thrill the tongue. So I know that you touch the hard palate or back, just the tip of the soft palate, but in English it's different. I will try it, like during your drone, like rise, robot. So here's an example: rice, rubber, rattle, rodents, rats, paper, where, really, people, sleeper, robot, restaurant. So I repeated this one more than 100 times, and also repeated it again and again. So I made it. This is time for Dr. Seredon, because Dr. Seredon is bilingual. Dr. Seredon, please teach us how you can pronounce, and please pronounce these vocabularies.
Okay, let me see. Okay, I would say rice, rubber, rattle, rodents, rats, paper, rare, really, and beeper.
Okay, that's different from Dr. Alfaros. I know that. So please explain.
Well, you basically have to close your mouth a little bit, and I think you have to lift your tongue a little bit. I don't think about it as you mentioned. I don't really like when I say rice. I lift my tongue and I take it to the hard palate, but I don't touch it that much. But I do like keep the mouth small, like not very big. It's not, you don't open your mouth very much. You basically make your mouth small. So you say rice.
Yeah, that is a kissing position.
Yeah,
small,
yeah,
that
exactly.
means around the top, very slightly.
Yeah, you make the mouth very, very small, very tight. So rubber. So you don't smile when you say it. You don't say rice.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. And then next one, Dr. Seredon, please explain, pronounce these two words.
Zero. I think you would have to.
I cannot hear you.
Oh, there, zoo and zero.
Okay.
You have to maybe like hard to say. Here you do have to open your mouth more, I guess, and you have to vibrate your tongue more and make a longer sound, like yeah, you have to vibrate your tongue a little bit. Zoo,
okay.
Zero.
Okay. Anyway, you can put your teeth together with your tongue directly behind the junction and make a drone voice and a hissing sound like a bee. For example, it was very difficult for me, but I made it. Z. If you pronounce Z, they can understand. But if you pronounce Ju, they can understand. Why? You need the hissing sound, like a Z, zero, Z, zipper, zany, zinger, jazz, churches, benches, breezes. That is a hissing sound, like a bee. Z, z. As long as you have Z, it's okay. But anyway, I'd like to move on to the next topic. how to moderate a scientific section. Here are 3 do's. Try to meet all the presenters before the session begins and remind the presenters of their time limit. This is very important. This is a moderate role to finish the session in time. If you have a crucial question, perhaps essential for clarification, ask it immediately on behalf of the audience. If not, ask the audience for questions. So you can give the opportunity for the audience to ask a question. If there is no questions, you can ask a question to stimulate the discussion. That is very important point. And you remember that I sent you this template to know how to moderate a scientific session. Has anyone have moderated a scientific session in English? Dr. Seredon, have you ever moderated a session in English?
No, I've never moderated a session in English. No.
Okay, what about Dr. Alfaro?
I did it once. In fact, I did it this year. But it was my first and unique time. And so, I did 3 things. First, of course, I read as much as I could about the topic. And then I made myself a couple of questions, maybe about 6 questions. Okay. And I also shared these questions with some colleagues to check the English, the grammar, well, trying to see if they were interesting or not, if they were easy to understand or not. And the other side is one of the speakers, was Dr. Noria Huedo, who is very known. And so, I had the opportunity to meet him about 2 years ago. So I was already pretty familiar with him. So I tried to find, let's say, I forgot it. In YouTube, I tried to find as much as records as I could about him explaining topics. So it was easier for me to get used to his voice.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think it helped me a lot. So it was pretty easy for me to understand his English.
Okay, so thank you very much for sharing your experience. So for you, which one was more difficult or nervous? Presentation in English or moderation in English? Which one was more difficult for you?
I have never made a presentation in English.
You are right.
I only had the opportunity to be, to moderate a scientific session. So it was the opposite.
Okay, I see. Yes. Thank you. And then we are ready to start first. Everybody moves forward, please. This is okay, but we are ready to start. First, I want the people sitting or standing at the back of the room to move forward. And also, this is an example. I used this one. I still use this one. If you want, you can use this example. I will briefly read it. Could everyone take a seat, please? We are ready to start. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Symposium A. I am Ho Young-sung from Asan Medical Center, Korea, and will be chairman for this session. Serving with me as a co-chairman is Dr. Adam, professor of the University of Bonn. We have 10 papers. Each presentation will be limited to 12 minutes, including 3 minutes of discussion. I will chair the first 5 papers and Professor Adam will chair the second 5. Also, here are 4 expressions to introduce the speakers. I'd like to call on our first speaker, Dr. A from B Hospital, or 4 examples. Also, 3 expressions to start the Q&A session. This is simple, like are there any questions or comment for Dr. A? Or any questions from the audience or from floor? We have time for 2 questions. And also 1 expression to close the session. This is simple, you can just read it. And there is many examples in my template. So finally, I'd like to talk about the importance of building up mentorship and friendship. Remember, this is
Excuse
also
me.
on. Okay.
Can I ask you something?
Okay, I'll finish one within 5 minutes, and then I will have a Q&A session. Okay.
Okay.
It's okay. So remember, this is also an opportunity for you to form network, mentorship, and friendship. Throughout the years, I have forged a strong scientific and personal bond with many enthusiastic scholars. And then today, I'd like to briefly introduce 4 of them: Dr. Taewon Lim from Korea, and Dr. Konstantin Kopp from University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, and Dr. David Compe from Colorado University, and Dr. David Shepherd from the Bournemouth in the UK. And my paper on transcatheter embolization of traumatic pseudoaneurysm was accepted by RSNA in 1989. I was happy and also excited, but I didn't know how to present that in English. So I met Dr. Taewon Lim at the Assam Medical Center, who presented 2 papers at 1988 RSNA conference. So at that time, I worked for my alma mater university. So it took for me for 6 hours to meet Dr. Taewon Lim. He taught me how to design the slides and present in English. After that, I visited Dr. Konstantin Kopp at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia for 1 month, just before RSNA conference. And I asked him to revise my presentation and asked him to record in his voice using a tape. And I listened to his tape again and again until it was worn out. That was a wonderful opportunity. And also I observed some experimental studies for 1 month. And then on Thanksgiving, Dr. Kopp invited me and 2 other doctors to his home. And he cooked turkey because that was Thanksgiving. Just before we start dinner, he asked a question. Dr. Song, do you eat turkey in Korea? I answered, I don't think so, but I saw one at the zoo. He asked me, what is zoo? How do you spell it? I said, Z-O-O. What is Z? Please write down on this paper. I just wrote down Z-O-O. He said, oh, zoo. My face turned red and I wanted the ground to open up and swallow me. So I cannot forget that kind of a situation. And then another mistakes again and again. For example, he asked me, what was the cause of death of the rabbit during the experimental study? I replied, he died of breathing, not bleeding. So I didn't know how to pronounce R sound and L sound. And another examples. So that was my strong motivation to learn English. So English became an obstacle for me to present, moderate, and give a lecture in English. So I was like a page torn from a book, painfully aware of my limitations. I decided to ask my friends, American friend, Dr. David Compe from Colorado University, and Dr. David Shepherd. Coincidentally, their name is David. So I call them David in the UK. And then I asked them to revise my presentations and my emails. Here you can see, for the past 2 years, I emailed them many times to ask revision with the use of a track change function on Microsoft Word so that I could understand where they changed. You remember these emails? So here from to us, even in Costa Rica, even now. So I emailed you this 3 weeks ago after their proofreading. So I have learned a lot. And then also I asked them to record my lectures and also speeches in their own voice. So this is an example. Dr. Kompi, he is very famous, and he came to Korea for talks at Korean Radiological Society. And also he came to my office to record the Society of Interventional Radiology Gold Medal Award speech in 2016. It was sheer honor and joy for me. So I listened to his recording again and again to the last minute until my Gold Medal Award speech in front of more than 2,000 SIR members. Just briefly listen to the beginning of his recording.
President of SIR.
Okay, so in 2004, he invited me to the University of Colorado Health Science Center for 10 days and asked me to give 3 talks on Monday and Tuesday. After that, he took a vacation and he showed us his second house, and also we skied at the Vail Ski Resort. This is his house. His house is wonderful, and this is his second house. And also, this is me, and then Dr. Kompi took a picture of me at the bottom of Vail Ski Resort. And also, this is his wife, Rosemary, and this is my wife. So we had a wonderful relationship. Last year, when I stayed in San Antonio, my wife and I drove up to the Colorado from San Antonio for 14 hours with the use of a rent car. So this is Rosemary came to us to greet, and then Rosemary cooked all days, and also we stayed there 4 days during the COVID-19 pandemic. So here you can see we were wearing masks. So I like their garden because their garden is like a botanical garden. So when the time for say goodbye came, we bought an Austrian pine tree to celebrate our 30 years of friendships. Okay, and this is Dr. David Kompi in Bournemouth in the UK. He invited me to St. George Hospital in London and asked me to give talks on lacrimal balloon dilation and stent placement and live demonstration. They prepared 3 patients, and then I did the procedures for ophthalmologist and interventional radiologist. And they asked us to stay in their house. We made it, and in 2004, also he invited me to the UK asking to talk about the gastroduodenal stent placement. In 2007, when I received the British Honorary Fellowship members, he asked me to stay with there in their house. And then we stayed there for 4 days, and they gave us a ride from Bournemouth to the Birmingham for 4 hours. So that was wonderful memory and then pretty experience. So I believe that it is a good fortune that in my career, my path has intersected with those of my friends and mentors. So they taught me with patience and helped me build self-confidence and encouraged me by sharing their unending wisdom, promoted the importance of lifelong learning, and helped me improve my English. I realized that the number of mentors defines your real success in life. And any place where enthusiastic mentors and mentors is my home. I am devoted to the aura and essence of human beings like a butterfly. So that's why I stayed in the United States for 2 years, and I will be staying in China. So this is my last. So Dr. Andrea, what was your question?
I wanted to ask if I have to present someone, for example, in the case of Dr. Noriabuelo, which information should I share? For example, he is, I don't know, the director of this department, or he is an expert in this topic, or he has been working in artificial intelligence for this time. I don't know, what's the most important information I should share to present someone, okay? Or I don't know what information about his or her career should I share, or the present, I don't know, research.
So I don't understand exactly what your question is. Would you please repeat?
Yes, of course. For example, if I am going to, let's say, moderate, okay, yes, if I have to
moderate a session.
Yes, to moderate a session, and I have to present yourself, for example, which information should I share about you to the audience?
Okay.
So they can know you. I mean, what's important and what's not, and what's too much information, because sometimes people read all the curriculum and others just say, oh, everybody knows Dr. Song, and that's all. And it's not enough. So which information should I share?
Okay, it will be different from meeting to meeting. For example, if you have an informal meeting, you can share your personal experience or something like that. But if it is an international meeting, it's not a good idea to share the personal experience. It is an official meeting, so you can introduce the speakers, and also there is a regulation. For example, you can use 1 minute for introduction, or just 2 minutes. So in the case, you don't need to introduce the speakers briefly, like from a hospital, as I used one example. But if that is a lecture, you can use 5 minutes or 3 minutes. So you can introduce his background, the speaker's background to the audience. Also, you can introduce yourself. Why I am introducing these speakers, or someone like that. So if it is an academic meeting, like esophageal stent meeting, in the beginning, you can talk about the background. Now we are here regarding the esophageal stent placement in Costa Rica, in the world. So today we are going to talk about the A, B, C, D. Did I answer your question, Andrea? It's okay? Or any other questions?
No, it's okay.
It's okay? Any other questions? Dr. Solano, any questions or comments?
If he has any comments, I will read them.
Okay. Okay. Dr. Seradon, do you want? If there is no further question, we can close.
No, basically, Dr. Solano says that it was a very interesting presentation. No, I have no comments. I think it's very interesting. Thank you very much. It was very nice, Dr. Solano.
Okay. If you have time, please read my template. It will be a great help, I guarantee. So before you attend the meeting as a moderator or a speaker, you can just look at it. It will be of some help or great help, depending on your experience. Okay. Okay. Thank you. See you next.
Bye. Bye-bye.